pure, unadulterated hatred. Hatred can be a hell of a motivator. Well, today, ladies and gentlemen, we are kicking off the first episode of Squabble on Site. It is your boy, Troy Yeager, and we are back again, guys, with another one. Back again with a brand new mini-series. Hopefully, this will be a very long mini-series, but I'm just trying to test the waters out here real quick. What is Squabble on Site? Well, squabble. What's the meaning of it? It's when two people get into a fisticuffs when they see each other. It's just basically that. You know what I'm saying? Two niggas just wanted to kill each other. Well, today we're gonna talk about one feud in particular. The first feud on the Squabble on Site series: Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland. Now, it's no secret. It's no surprise to dissect this story in its own right. This is amongst one of the greatest feuds in all of wrestling. Not just in AEW, but in all of wrestling. The psychological ruins, the damage, the matches, the character development in this feud is top tier. This is one of AEW's cornerstone rivalries, and it's pretty much evident. There's no give and take in this feud. These two went out there and they took a piece of each other's humanity, insanity, and today we're just gonna dissect it down. We're gonna talk about all the matches, all the key moments in the feud, and above all, we're gonna talk about the culmination of their feud at All Out. But before we do that, we are gonna have to take it all the way back to the beginning of one of AEW's greatest feuds. Let's get into it. The feud was first built in late 2023 after AEW came out of the very controversial CM Punk situation. But they needed new stars, so they positioned Swerve Strickland as the top star of the company. One way to do that, one way to legitimize his star power, is to let him face against Hangman Adam Page, an already established star and one of its core characters in the business history. All started in late September of 2023 when Swerve Strickland confronted Hangman Adam Page on Dynamite, claiming or accusing Hangman Adam Page of complacency, being too comfortable, wearing the same ring gear, basically just attacking his image all in all. He also told Hangman that if he had the same opportunities that Page had, he would have been AEW's first Black World Champion. And that was just the whole analysis from this entire feud, the reasoning behind it. He just wanted Hangman's spot. It also further planted seeds of jealousy and the rivalry itself, and questions of legacy and ambition. And above all, Swerve Strickland wanted to put Hangman into turmoil. At the contract signing, Hangman and Swerve engage in a very much verbal onslaught against each other, with Swerve Strickland further implementing to his reasonings as to why he deserves to be the main guy of AEW, why it is so important for him to become the first ever AEW World Champion. Whereas Hangman Adam Page has been wasting his opportunities and just all around just not being as committed as to this position as he once was before. It also gave birth to one of the coldest lines, I believe, in the feuds entirely. Swerve also told Hangman that what is a farmer to a mogul? What is a cowboy to an outlaw? And what is a buckshot to a kill shot? The kill shot reference was back in his heyday, back when he was formerly known as Killshot. So it was very much of a cool callback to their rivalry. And it also ended with Hangman Adam Page stabbing Swerve Strickland in the hand with a pen, further cementing that this might have been a very competitive feud, but dark patterns were starting to show in the early ends of this feud, and we didn't know how dark it was really gonna get. AEW's pay-per-view event of Wrestle Dream, Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland engaged in a very compelling match, symbolizing that the feud hasn't reached its brutal beginnings. It was just more competitive than none. And it was more about Swerve needed to vindicate all of his talk and Page defending his status. The match was more about positioning and pride more than violence. Swerve Strickland beat Hangman Adam Page with minor interference from Prince Nana with the crown, and further beating him in a statement win in Swerve's hometown of Washington, D.C., further establishing him as a top-tier threat to Hangman Adam Page. Well, we all thought that this might have been the end of the feud, but once we didn't realize that it was about to go even deeper into the dark abyss that we now know it to be. On the next episode of Dynamite, Page cuts a very heated promo calling Swerve's win against him at Wrestle Dream a fluke, and further vows revenge of getting him back. And by doing so, in an act of retaliation, he also costs Swerve Strickland a title opportunity earlier in the night. This also caused a lot of tension between them, while it was further growing and AEW just started to lean into their opposite personalities. The principled cowboy versus the ruthless climber. Hangman, being complacent, didn't realize how deep this dark hole was going to go. It was to the first darkest moment of the feud, as Swerve Strickland, angered by Hangman's interference in the match, further pushed it way too far. He broke into Hangman's home, verbally mocks him in front of his child, while the child was laying in a crib, mind you, and places a Swerve t-shirt atop of the baby, further adding more psychological terror into Hangman's mind and further cementing that this has turned into more than just a competitive feud, but a blood feud. And you guys obviously know that a blood feud of this magnitude, when a blood feud involves family and especially a child, it tends to get a little too far. And believe you me, these two went absolutely far. This was indeed one of the most shocking AEW heel segments to date. It really just gives you a more inside look as to what Swerve's intention was. He was just looking more into, he wasn't just looking for a spot. No, he literally wanted to end this man's entire life. He wanted to ruin it, basically. And literally we realized that it was about to get even worse than it already is. And there's only 2 words to describe it. Actually, make it 3 words. Texas Deathmatch. Full Gear. I believe it was November. Yes, November. Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland engaged in one of the most brutal, boundary-pushing matches in wrestling history. This match was just an all-around car crash from the very start to the very end. It involved family pictures. It involved Hangman literally stapling one of his child's school art pieces onto Swerve's face. It also involved a very infamous moment, and I might say infamous. Actually, it was very much infamous because this shit was just insane. It involved Hangman Adam Page drinking Swerve's blood and spitting it in the air. This part of the match was highly criticized, and rightfully so, because it was just downright just nasty, man. As a guy who just doesn't like hardcore matches that much, I would appreciate it. This match was excellent in all of it was just a perfect blend of chaos, madness, and destruction. But that moment was just a little bit too much for me, and it really just did not resonate with me very much. It didn't resonate with a lot of people. Most people were criticizing as to AEW as to why they allowed this angle to happen in the match. And yeah, but not to let it be, it wasn't mainly the most negative aspect of the match, even though it was pretty negative. This match became an absolute punishment match with who can inflict the most damage on the other. And in the end, Swerve just seemingly had the mental edge. had the upper hand against Hangman, and in an ironic twist, defeated Hangman by hanging him with a chain, and further beating him for the second time that year, further cementing that Swerve Strickland is the next face of AEW moving on to the future. After the violence peaked, the feud shifted into more of a similar tone, like the feud sort of shifted into more of a familiar tone and structure for both men, because their focus back into the AEW World title that was previously held by Samoa Joe. They later had a #1 contendership match to determine who will challenge Samoa Joe at Revolution. But in another banger of a match, they went on the 30-minute time limit draw. But Swerve Strickland seemingly turning into sort of a babyface. He was shifting into a babyface, asked Hangman Adam Page for 5 more minutes, to which Hangman declined. It further cemented the double turn between the two. Like, Hangman was starting to become more resentful, started to become more petty in a way, because he didn't want to see Swerve Strickland as AEW World Champion. He refuses that. But because of the time limit draw and because of the stipulation for that match, both men were still inserted into the match, making it a 3-way title against Joe at Revolution. During this whole period, this whole build towards Revolution, it almost was like Samoa Joe was the odd one out, because this was mainly just surrounded around Hangman and Swerve. During this period, both of their characters underwent various changes. Hangman began showing some darker, more aggressive traits, and the crowd seemingly started to notice the changes. So they started to distance themselves from the recently known babyface good guy Hangman, and they're finally realizing that this feud with Swerve has sort of corrupted him into unleashing a more darker side in him. Whereas Swerve, still ruthless, but started to openly acknowledge the emotions, the stakes, and the toll that this rivalry has had on him, which made him more sympathetic to the crowd, and that began the crowd being behind Swerve Strickland. So we get to the match, the 3-way match. We get to the match, and it was actually a great match, a great 3-way match. These three blended really well together, but it was more of towards what happened at the end of that match that really got a lot of attention. Samoa Joe held Hangman Adam Page in the coquina clutch, and not even a minute in, not even a few seconds, like within seconds, Hangman Adam Page tapped out to Samoa Joe, costing Swerve Strickland the match, and further just cementing his absolute hatred of Swerve Strickland to the point where he would risk his own opportunity at the world title if it meant Swerve Strickland never winning the AEW World Championship. That further cemented Hangman's descent into it didn't necessarily cement it. It was getting to that point. The signs were obviously there now. Hangman Adam Page resents him that much that he will literally change his entire demeanor, his entire character, just to one up on Swerve Strickland. The violence reduced, but only temporary. It didn't go on for a bit of a while, but yet Swerve Strickland still carried on his quest to become AEW World Championship, and sooner than later did exactly that. He won the AEW World Championship against Samoa Joe at Dynasty, becoming the first ever black AEW World Champion. Seemingly, Hangman failed in this attempt. He was also further suspended by the Young Bucks, needed to get away because he was attacking referees and all that stuff, because he he was over the edge, but later returned after months on end while Swerve Strickland was still champion. He entered the Owen, lost the Owen to Bryan Danielson, who was in his final year as a competitor. Then it all culminated to All In, and Swerve Strickland defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Bryan Danielson. It was a career versus title match. Then Hangman Adam Page had to insert himself into the match, causing a distraction and helping Bryan Danielson, in a way, helping him win the AEW World Championship, ending the reign of Swerve Strickland. The feud continued where it left off. The feud had to reach an end, and they actually found a means to that end. At All Out of 2024. And quite arguably, the most darker match in their feud. With Swerve and Hangman reaching absolute new levels in their rivalry. The lead up to the match, it was arguably the most memorable one of the entire feud, because it led to Hangman Adam Page doing the absolute most craziest thing I have ever seen anybody do in a blood feud. This man went to Swerve's childhood home of which Swerve actually bought the home, which belonged to his family when he was a kid. He went to his home, poured gasoline all over the place, and lit the place on fire. I kid you not, this was arguably one of the most shocking things that has ever been produced on national television. This man committed arson, and it caused disbelief, it caused anger, it caused anguish amongst other things to Swerve. This was so bad to the point where even Tony Khan made this lights out match the lights out match. It made it unsanctioned. Like, they just knew that this went too far, and it was going to reach a crescendo one way or another. The match happens, and it was, I should say, a little bit more of the killing part than on the aspect of deathmatch wrestling, because these two went ham on each other. It was another fantastic main event. There was staple guns involved. There were debris from a piece of of Swerve's home that Hangman actually obtained in the fire, in the after blaze. Tried to stab him with it. There were hypodermic needle. Yeah. English is leaving me. Hypodermic needle, which began just an absolute awe in front of the entire wrestling world. Stuck the needle inside of his mouth. And I kid you not, this really made a lot of people uncomfortable. And it needed to be so because of the story behind it. Then Hangman Adam Page ended the match by delivering what I could assume the most deadliest chair shot in the history of chair shots. I mean, this one chair shot could have made Swerve Strickland into Era 404. If you know, you know. Finally ended the match, gifting Hangman Adam Page his first win over Swerve. And it wasn't even about the win at that point. It was just about clarification. It was about getting rid of the demon of your nightmares. But Hangman Adam Page didn't felt like a hero that night. The people in that crowd was stunned. They were shocked. They were more or less happy than they were less happy, because they just finally they just laid witness to the ultimate metamorphosis of Hangman Adam Page. He has finally gone over to the other side. As he was standing there on the ramp and wanted to go back, he further thought to himself that, is this the type of man that I am? And further enough, he laid out a primordial scream and further descent into madness, and out gave birth to the outlaw Hangman Adam Page. That cowboy was dead. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the feud for Hangman and Swerve. I know there's a lot of cover up with the aftermath of the entire thing, you know, with Swerve Strickland helping out Hangman Adam Page at the end of the day, but I really wanted to take a look back at this feud in its entirety. And it's absolutely insane to think that these two went this far in this, it even to a point where both of them even acknowledged this as one of their best wrestling feuds to date. That the commitment in this was just absolutely top tier, and it could never be replicated again, man. That is why, hence, I proclaimed this as the first episode to squabble on site on the series. You know what I'm saying, though? But thank you guys so much for tuning in today's episode. This has been a little bit of a troubling one, but hey, man, it's all fun and dandy at the end of the day, man. If y'all are new, man, please subscribe to the channel. I know a lot of y'all viewed my last two videos. Thank y'all so much, but please, if you will, hit that subscribe button if you will, man. And listen, man, chapter 1 done on Squabble on Site. Let's move on to the other chapters. It's been your boy, Troy Yeager. Deuces.